Hey y'all, welcome to my nutrition workshop. So today we're going to be talking about how to estimate your nutrition needs, determine your activity level, and how to create balanced meals. So the first thing I want to do is point out what I have behind me. I have a bunch of fake food. It's kind of fun stuff. I've got some baked beans. I've got a pancake. This is a portion size for a pancake. I don't know about you, but before this workshop, this was not the size of one of my pancakes. And I used to eat like 3 or 4 of them at a time. We've got some fruits and vegetables. And then we also have, these are all of our carbs. So we have lots of different carb options. And then we have our fats and our proteins. So this is going to be what we are going to use to help learn to create balanced meals. And we're going to start first though with that worksheet that I have on the file in this nutrition workshop group. So I want you to pull up that file, and the first thing you're going to see in the nutrition worksheet is you're going to see determine your activity level. So if you're an active person, that would include you're exercising intensely and even possibly having an active job. You're on the move a lot. You're physically very active. Something kind of in between average would be like, I exercise, but my job's pretty sedentary, and I exercise, 3 or 4 times a week. And then we also have the actual sedentary. So sedentary would be that I really don't do much outside of activities of daily living. So I want you just to pick one and know there might be days where you're more sedentary, which is totally fine. We can figure that part out later. But for your average, like what you typically would do, you want to first determine your activity level. So active, average, or sedentary. Okay, once we do that, we're going to start to estimate your nutrition needs. So you can look down on the next level in that next box. It says estimate your nutrition needs. And we're looking at different activity levels for men versus women. So an active female is going to be needing about 6 protein choices, 3 to 4 fat choices, 11 to 12 carbs. Okay, so you can see that in that very first line where it says active female. Now, I'm going to let you pick which one you are. There's, like I said, 2 different levels. You got your female and your male. So, choose by gender, your activity level, and then we're going to go ahead and put a big circle around how many protein choices, how many fat choices, and how many carb choices you need. All right, so once we're through that part, we're going to take a look a little bit lower, and I'm going to go through the actual food part here before the fake food part, before we get too much more in detail. But it's kind of nice to see where you're at and what your choices are going to be as we walk through some of this. Okay, so you can see, if you look at your sheet, it says protein, 1 choice equals 20 grams. So we're going to look at what a choice of protein would look like, and that's going to be about 20 grams of protein. Your fat choices, 1 choice is approximately 10 grams, okay? Sometimes when you look at like a tablespoon of olive oil, you're gonna see it's about 14 grams of fat. I still consider that just 1 fat choice, okay? And then if you look to the next one, it says carb choices. 1 carb choice is 15 grams. So now we're going to look at sorting out our food a little bit before we finish this worksheet. So sorting our foods. We're gonna look at what we have for carbs here. So carbohydrates, things like cereal, almost every single fruit or vegetable. So I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to show you. These are grapes, and this is about a palm size. So a palm, about the size of my palm, is considered a serving. All right. So regular grapes, 15 grams. Here's what's interesting. Take a look at, this is just a raisin, okay? It's just a dried out grape. So if I were to measure 1 to 1, this is still about 15 grams worth of carbs. And this is about 15 grams worth of carbs, okay? And then this is grape jelly, okay? Just kind of picture what that looks like, on a piece of toast or something. And this little bit of jelly is 15 grams of carbs. So you can see that once we start processing food or taking water out of it, the ability of it to fill me up is a little bit diminished, right? Especially when I look at this, if I'm looking at volume. So to me, the best choice would be the grapes, but that doesn't mean I can't have a little grape jelly, but I want to be respectful of how much I use, because that's not really very much. And we are trying to stick with less processed foods, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend using, you know, something that has a bunch of fake sugar in it either. So real grapes are always a great idea. If you're really counting your calories, you could use, you know, like a sugar-free jam, but I wouldn't make that a staple, because when we start adding things that have a lot of preservatives in them, sometimes our bodies don't really know what to do with those. They don't process them as well, and it can kind of take our energy away. So that's a quick visual on, that's my grape story. I really like that one. But we also have things like, this is considered 1 serving of asparagus. Okay, it's about the size of my palm. Okay, but when we look at a fibrous vegetable, it's a freebie. So if we're looking at carb choices and we're saying, oh, I get 5 carb choices or 10 carb choices in a day, the fibrous vegetables they're freebies. They don't count for anything. So this is how we get full, right? This is how we bulk up or get our bulk in our tummies. So let me give you some examples of freebies. All right. Things like cruciferous vegetables. So you could just write down the word cruciferous vegetables, and you can, you know, Google a list of that if you like, but I can give you a few. Cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable. Broccoli is a cruciferous vegetable. And this is 1 portion, right? So you could double down on that, have 2 freebies, get really full. Asparagus, lettuce, beets, okay? And I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a freebie, but carrots are also a good, really good choice because they're full of vitamins A and C. All right, so those are some of our veggies, right? And then we have things like fruit. So the difference between fruits and vegetables are that even though fruits are really good for you, they have a lot of vitamins in them. These all have lots of water content as well. They're going to also provide you with lots of fiber, which is great. They do tend to be higher in calories, and sugar is sugar. Okay, so when we look at fruit sugar, even though it's a better option than a processed cane sugar, it needs respect. Does that make sense? So if I'm looking at a palm-sized version of this, then that's 15 grams of carbs. So we don't want to go crazy. These aren't freebies. These are your carb choices when it comes to fruits. Still well spent if you ask me, because a good juicy orange tastes amazing. All right. So then of course we get into different starches like mashed potatoes, a baked potato. Corn is a starch. It's not so much of a fibrous vegetable as it is a starch. Peas are also very starchy, but a great choice, very good for you. Have a nice snack to them and taste delicious. Also, my friend Elizabeth's favorite vegetable is peas. Fun fact. Okay, so those are some of our grains and starchier servings. This is oatmeal. So I do want to take a moment to point this out. So I used to work in a corporate job where people would go down and they would, I'd see them in the cafeteria, and they would get oatmeal, and they would get these little vats of it, and then they would put a bunch of brown sugar and about 5 of these in there. Okay, so if I'm looking at carb choices, let's say like the average person, the average female who's pretty sedentary, let's say she needs 10 grams of carb, or 10 carb choices in a day. If this is 1 carb choice, but I've got somebody who's filling up one of those little vats of oatmeal and then putting a couple tablespoons of brown sugar and, you know, maybe a couple handfuls of this, we could easily almost come to capacity for the whole day in carbohydrates in that 1 serving. And the perception is, oh, it's oatmeal, it's healthy. Oh, it's raisins, it's healthy. It's not as processed. That's true, and that's great, but we have to look at portion control on this one. So if I only have 10 choices, oatmeal might not be the main star, the star of my breakfast. It might be a little bit of a side. And then maybe I'm just a little more careful with the raisins. And then maybe just a little more careful with the brown sugar. And I slow down and enjoy my food and take a few bites and really savor the food. So anyway, big one on the carbs there. And then we have things like cake, and brownies. Now, are these bad? I mean, really take a second to think, you know, is this a bad food choice? I would say no, it's not a bad food choice, but it's something that I have to limit if I want to make sure I keep my energy levels up, because this kind of food tastes delicious, but it's very processed. So it's going to enter your bloodstream very quickly. shoot your insulin levels up because your insulin has to respond to the sugar. And then your insulin levels are going to drop. And that probably is going to make you feel pretty hungry not too soon after, or it's really not very big. So if I'm really, really hungry and I have one of these, it's not going to fill me up. And if there's more of them sitting out, I might have more of them, right? So my big thing with this kind of, if you ask me, looks like a piece of wedding cake. So this would be something that, like, if I were going to a wedding, I would look at the food and I would think, okay, is there the right kind of protein for me there? Yeah, there's usually some kind of chicken or salmon, so there's a good protein. Is there a really delicious vegetable there? Typically there's a vegetable on the side. You know, if it's not drowned in butter and sauces, then it's probably a good choice too, or a salad is great. And then what I do is I scout out the cake. And if it's the kind of cake I like, which I love white cake, if it's like this kind of cake, I'm probably going to use this as my carb choice at that wedding, okay? Not every day am I choosing cake for a carb choice, but if I wanted to balance that out, I would go ahead and have the healthier food, the salmon or whatever. That's pretty decadent, tastes great. And then I would indulge here and probably in a glass of wine. Okay, so one more thing though. We have to look at portion size on this one. Okay, so I have my brownie, and that's 15 grams of carbs approximately right there. Now this one, oh, sorry, one that goes up, the calories still are there. So really, if I look at the size of my palm, this is really closer to like 2 servings. So this is probably 2 carb choices, whereas this is 1. So keep that in mind. Yeah. All right, one other thing I wanted to point out on carbs, well, 2 more things. One is milks. If you read the label on most milks, they're a carb choice, not a protein choice. And the reason that is that even skim milk, say this one's skim, even skim milk is 12 grams of sugar and approximately 8 grams of protein. So it's more carb than protein. Not to say that it's a bad choice. I'm not going to get into a debate on what kind of dairy products, if you should be doing dairy, if you should be doing soy, if you should be, it depends on the person. Personally, I don't do dairy products as much, but I've also had a food sensitivity test that said I should stay away from that stuff. So if I'm going to use something, I use coconut milk because it was one of the types of milk that I know doesn't spike my food sensitivities. So if you want more information on that, I would go to everlywell.com and look into a food sensitivity kit. That's really useful if you're the kind of person that's noticing, like, no matter what I do, I can't seem to lose weight. Skin issues, if you break out a lot and you can't seem to figure that out, it could very well be a food sensitivity, and it can be remedied pretty easily because, you know, like I said, I don't drink coconut milk, but if I need to use it in a recipe, it's an easy sub. I don't miss the milk, and it's just not a big deal. Same with like yogurts. You can get coconut yogurt. You can get almond-based yogurt. So you have different options. But I would say, as a person who used to eat a lot of almonds, that was one that showed up on my sensitivity as a very high sensitivity level on it. So if you don't want to be surprised like I was, you might want to check that out. It's not a bad idea. Or you can even talk to your doctor about having a sensitivity test. So that's the milks. And then the last thing I wanted to point out to you guys is pasta. So, I mean, I want you to get a good look at this baby. This is supposed to be spaghetti. And this is 15 grams of carbs in spaghetti. Sad, I know. I mean, the last time I went to Olive Garden, they probably put 6 to 8 servings of this on my plate, right? And then they give you a few meatballs, and that's it. So just something to really think about. Now, when I tell you this, I'm not trying to say don't ever eat spaghetti. I'm just saying if you really, really love the real thing, the real pasta, maybe it's a special occasion thing. Maybe it's a once a month thing. Maybe it's a holiday thing. So just something to think about there with pasta. Because, I mean, I could easily myself eat 10 of these. I don't know about you. So instead of pasta, what I use are different kinds of, I really like lentils, but there's different kinds of pastas out there. I recommend that you experiment with them. My favorites so far are chickpea pasta, and I really like red lentil pastas. This one was from Walmart, and I think it was around $2 or $3. It wasn't terribly expensive. The hard part's portion control with this still, but I just make this my side. So like if I'm doing chicken or I'm doing some kind of meat or some kind of protein, this is kind of my little side dish, and then I do lots of vegetables to make sure I get full. So this one is a red lentil, like a fusilli. It looks kind of like a spiral. So those can be handy. I also have another red lentil one from Trader Joe's. And Trader Joe's does a black bean one. And their black bean, listen to this, 35 grams of carbs, 15 grams of fiber, and 14 grams of protein. So this can take the place of your carb and your protein pretty much. When we're looking at, 14 grams of protein is pretty decent there. Yeah? All right, so those are some options for substitutes for your carbs. All right, moving on. Moving on to fats. So I want to talk to you a little bit about fats. With our fat choices, we have things like almonds, pretty much all your nuts and seeds. These are pepitas, so pumpkin seeds. Notice these are coming from plant-based, and I really like that. Avocado oil and guacamole, and I've got like a tablespoon of olive oil. Okay, so that is going to be a full fat choice, and it's about 14 grams of fat. Okay, so if you take 14 times 9, because there's 9 calories in each, that gets you to like 120 calories. So the reason I show this in a measuring spoon is because it's important to make sure that these are healthy fats and they're good for you. But we can get our calories up pretty high, so pretty easily, right? Like if I'm not really measuring and just pouring it out, you want about the size of your thumb when you're looking at this type of a fat. So as far as olive oil goes, olive oil is great with raw. So when I'm making a salad dressing, I'll use avocado oil or olive oil. But when you're cooking, avocado oil has a very high smoking point. And so what we're learning more and more about is cooking with something that has a higher smoking point will help keep the fats from being damaged. So when I cook, it's always avocado oil. When I make a salad dressing, sometimes it's this just because of what I have. But olive oil is a great choice as well. There's lots of different oils out there that you can check into that are nut-based, like a walnut oil, a flaxseed oil. Those are good options as well. What you do want to be careful of are the kinds of fats that are hard at room temperature. So taking it easy on things like butters. Margarines, I would really, really avoid because there's a lot of synthetics in there. If you look at butter, it's just churned cream, right? If you look at what's in margarines, if you can't pronounce the name or the ingredients, it's probably not the best option for you. Because when we're putting things into our body that aren't natural, it can really throw off your digestion. All right. So some other common fats, cheeses. I'm a big fan of, a lot of people don't know this, but cheddar, parm, and Swiss cheese are all low lactose. Okay, so cheddar, parm, Swiss, good choices. Colby Jack, good choice. Yeah, as far as cheeses go, cheese falls into the fat category. Even though it has some protein in it, it's higher in fat. So we want to be aware, if we're looking at 9 grams of fat in a serving of cheese, then we're looking at approximately, 63 calories just from fat. Plus you'll have some protein in there. So you're gonna get, your calories are gonna jump up pretty quickly. So cheese is a fine option, but it does jump up quickly in calories. So that's a big portion control one for us. Notice things, this is supposed to be like cream cheese. So it's about the size of my thumb, okay? So that's a serving. Let's see, I think we've pretty much covered our fats. Okay, so now we're gonna get into proteins. So with protein, we are looking at lots of different options here. We've got some roast beef and chicken. So this is a serving. That's what a serving size of roast beef looks like, about the palm of your hand. This is one you'd see a lot at a wedding, I feel like. Chicken. So here's a chicken breast, size of the palm of the hand. Okay. So these are roughly 20 grams. We've got some deli turkey. And with the deli turkey, I always recommend hormone-free. Try to get a clean version of that. If you have a high V, sometimes they carry, it's called the Des Moines Meat Company. They carry some nitrite and nitrate-free, hormone-free turkey. It's not cheap, but it's pre-cooked. It's good for you. It's a better option. So that's what I would recommend there. Then we have some tilapia, some salmon. We have a little beef patty here. Yes, beef is not the worst thing in the world for you, right? I particularly like the bison burgers, and our Walmart carries a grass-fed organic bison burger that's delicious. So that would be an option for you as well. When it comes to meats and your fruits and vegetables, I do recommend organic as much as you can. I understand that that can be a budget issue for a lot of people, and believe me, I understand that. But some things you can do or you can research, I can get that put up on this particular Facebook group, the Clean 13 and the Dirty Dozen. So, and I talk about it in my cookbook too. So your Clean 13 are the vegetables that they're hardy enough that they don't really require a ton of spraying in order to keep them ripe and nice and fresh. Cruciferous vegetables fall into that category. Things with peels on them that you're gonna peel and toss, those tend to fall into that category that if you're trying to be budget friendly, you could, look at those as maybe your least order of importance in terms of organic. But things that are fragile like berries, if you're concerned with berries going bad, I would buy organic frozen. It's going to be your best bet as far as pricing goes, and it's going to give you tons of fiber and lots of vitamins and tons of polyphenols. So those are really, really good for us. In terms of prioritizing organic, I would say meats are right there, up there at the top. So what we're looking for is just the cleanest version of meat that you can get. And what I have found is that Costco has a really, really good deal on organic chicken. So I'll buy the whole chicken and cook it in my Instant Pot. I'll do a post on that eventually on this Facebook group. So organic chicken, huge. And then of course, Walmart carries, like I said, organic grass-fed beef and bison, at least our Walmart does. I know that there are different Walmarts in different areas that probably carry different things, but you could ask for those. So organic, it really is, it's a good option if you can swing it. Aldi's also carries great organic. They have a fantastic organic section. So now that we've talked about carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, let's touch on what does a carbohydrate do for us, what's a fat do for us, what's a protein do for us. So we know that carbohydrates give us energy, right? But not only do they give us energy, let's think about what do you see here when I pick up these types of carbs? Some cauliflower, some veg, big thing of blueberries, yum yum. When we look at these types of carbohydrates, they're full of water, so we get more hydration, and they're full of vitamins. So when we look at carbohydrates, we think energy, we think vitamins, and we think fiber, okay? Most of us need at least 25 grams of fiber a day. If you're not hitting that number, that would be a good reason to track on MyFitnessPal, just to make sure you're actually getting your macronutrients and your micronutrients correct. But you can also do it by just looking at what I'm in a nutshell doing for you right here, okay? So we've got our carbohydrates here, and we know those are mostly energy, vitamins, and fiber. If you're taking notes, those are the three things I would know. On fats, so there are better fats, good options, and then there are not so good options, right? Our fats that are solid at room temperature, typically not a good option, okay? Doesn't mean you can never have them, but we're talking about where your staples are coming from right now. So things like I said, avocado oil would be first on my list for you. Unless you're allergic to avocado, then of course you'd have to go to olive oil. But once again, avocado, olive oil, flaxseed oil. You want to stay away from things like corn oils and canola oil. Those are ones that I would work my way away from. And then of course, your saturated fats, things that are solid at room temperature. A lot of people ask me about coconut oil. There's research out there that says good and bad. Personally, I use it, but I'm very, very careful with my carbohydrates. So the thing with carbs is they're your body's first source of energy. So if you're taking in a lot of saturated fats, if you've read somewhere, oh, paleo diet's so awesome, but you really don't stick to it and you eat a lot of junk on the side, taking in a lot of coconut oil, your body is not going to burn that saturated fat off. If you're eating a lot of processed carbohydrates or you're eating a lot of carbs, your body's going to burn those carbs first. So you want to be careful with saturated fats, okay? You want to just really try to balance it out, keep your food nice and clean. Okay, so our last one is protein. So as far as protein goes, I think most of us know protein helps us repair and build muscle, okay? So when you think about when you exercise, When you are squeezing and you feel that burn in your muscle and the next day your muscles are sore, you've created micro tears in that muscle. That's not a bad thing. What happens is your body uses protein to repair that muscle tissue. And then you go down and you tear it down again, and then it repairs again. And then before you know it, that muscle tissue has been repairing. It's like scar tissue on top of scar tissue, and then you have a muscle, or you have a bigger muscle. So when it comes to protein, protein's great for muscle repair, okay? It's really, really good for us. And it also helps with hair, skin, nails. So we wanna make sure that we are getting in your protein. So once we have all of that down, I'm gonna have you refer back to your worksheet. I'm looking down because I have my worksheet here on the table. So let's look at our protein. So let's say, I'm just gonna use somebody for an example here. Let's say that I am an average female. And so if I look back up under the average female, so I'm not super active, but you know, I exercise some, kind of a sedentary job. I'm gonna need 5 servings of protein at least each day, 3 to 4 servings of fat, and about 10 carb choices, okay? So let's look at how we might sort that out and create some healthy meals. So I'm gonna get myself 5 different protein choices, and I'm going to put them on these handy dandy plates. So I'm gonna say, maybe for one meal I have some roast beef. Another one I'm having some chicken. Let's say another, like for breakfast, I'm having eggs. And then let's say for another meal I'm having some salmon. Okay, so I'd say that's probably gonna be about 4 meals for me in a day. Okay, so if I'm going to do something like that for my protein choices, I still need one more. So that might be a protein powder. I might just use a protein powder mix to get my 5th protein in. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose a carbohydrate to go with that, because I'm gonna need 10 servings of carbs, okay? So let's say for breakfast, I'm gonna have some toast. So that's 1 serving, and that's 2. Okay, and you see I have an egg here. Let's say I'm making them scrambled. Okay, I know it shows you as an egg like this, but, or you know, an over easy egg. Let's say I scramble them, and I scramble them with some broccoli and asparagus. So now I've got some more vitamins, and these are all freebies, right? So this is 1 meal. So I've got my eggs and my toast. Now, what about the fats? So I've got fat in my yolk, okay, around 7 grams. And remember I told you it was gonna be around 10 grams for a choice. So I could have a little pat of maybe a little bit of butter here, and then maybe a little bit of grape jelly. But then look what happened. Now I have 3 carbs, because that's a choice. I have 3 carb choices. So what can I do? I've got my bread as a choice, and I've got 2 of them, so that's 2. I really want to keep it to like 2 choices. One thing I could do is I could take one of the breads away so I could enjoy a little bit of jelly. So now I've got scrambled eggs with veggies and a piece of toast with some jam. Okay, and of course you could go with an option if you're a grain-free person. You could go with some oats, or sorry, if you're a grain-free person, you could get rid of all of that, like that, and you could go with fruit. So then you would have veggies and fruit. Okay, so that's one way to build your balanced breakfast. So then let's look at a mid-morning snack. So for a mid-morning snack, one thing I could do is I could take roast beef, some lean roast beef, that's my protein choice, and some cheese, and roll it up and call that good. Now let's say I'm feeling like, yeah, but I'm kind of hungry, but I know I'm gonna have a treat later in the day. I wanna save some carbs, because I've already got 2 gone from breakfast. I only get 8 left. So one thing I could do if I wanted to add more bulk is I could wrap this all in a lettuce protein wrap and eat it like this. Throw some mustard on it. Mustard's a freebie. So that would be an easy way to modify that little snack. So that's your mid-morning snack, okay? So when we get to lunch, what am I doing at lunch? Well, let's say I know it's my friend's birthday, and I know that they're bringing. So I always talk about Aunt Dwin's brownies. So my husband's aunt is amazing. She makes the best brownie you've ever had. And I always rave about them. Whenever I'm around her, I can hardly control myself. They're so good. So let's pretend like Aunt Dwin's bringing brownies because it's my friend's birthday and we're all gonna have lunch together. So the first thing I'm gonna think about is, well, I need to stay to my plan. So I'm going to make it a pretty clean lunch so that I can enjoy my brownie totally guilt-free. So, I mean, in the back of my head, that brownie's already on my plate. Yeah. Okay, so let's say I've got some chicken. Now I have some options here. I could get some veggies chopped up and I could get a grilled chicken salad, right? And get my dressing on the side. Or I could do something like, what if I wanted to do some chicken with some rice and some, peas and carrots in there, okay? So what I would count there is I'd have my chicken, and my peas do count as another starch with my rice. So there's my 1, 2, this is my third carb choice. Carrots are free, and look at all that food I have on my plate for lunch. It's a decent amount of food. Are you getting the picture here? Like the big thing is pick a starch, but go easy on it and enjoy it. Eat it slowly and focus on filling up, especially if you can with veg. Vegetables really help. Okay, so that's my lunch. Now I'm gonna look at dinner. So if I wanted to do a mid-morning snack, I could still have, or mid-afternoon snack, I still have room for some more protein and, like I said, I might do a protein shake and a banana. That might be one way to go. So now for dinner, I've got my salmon. Now salmon has fat built into it. So if you read the stats on salmon, it's not a lean protein. It actually has somewhere between 10 and 15 grams, depending on the size of it, built in. So I've got my protein and my fat all together here. So that means I'm probably not gonna have a salad because I don't like fat-free dressing. If you do, kudos to you. I just would prefer not to have a salad. I'd rather have a steamed vegetable or something kind of roasted would be great. So I might go with something like cauliflower, and I still have room for another carb here. So let's say I want to have, well, if you do my cookbook, the garlic mash. My garlic mash has just a little bit of regular potato in it, and most of it is cauliflower. So a cauliflower mashie. So since I already have cauliflower in my mashies, then maybe what I would do here is just pick a different vegetable. How about some asparagus? So this cauliflower mash is amazing. If you haven't tried it, you gotta try it. It's very, very tasty. Like I said, you just put enough potato in it to give it the mouthfeel of a real potato, rather than, sometimes if you've ever done a cauliflower mash, the texture isn't as pleasant as, in my opinion, as the comfort food of mashed potato. So that is how I would plate, that's 4 meals. And I mentioned, throwing in maybe a protein shake and a banana, if I wanted to have a 5th one. On a less active day, I might just take away the protein shake and the banana. That would be plenty of food. So what I want you guys to do is to take a moment and go into your step 2, look at your protein, and there's a blank space for you to put in how many choices you get. And you're deciding that by whether you're male or female and your activity level. So you're gonna write in your protein choices and then move over to the fat choices. So you're gonna see that, like if you're an average female, I'm gonna go ahead and go with four fat choices because I'm not afraid of fat and I think it makes food taste good. So I'm going with 4. And then as far as carb choices go, it says for the average female, it's 10, okay? So now we've got our numbers written under how many choices we get. Now, if you're the kind of person that is used to counting calories, this next part's for you. If you get confused when you start counting calories, you don't need to worry about this because that's the whole point, is to make this easy enough for you to eyeball it, to understand choices so that you're not stuck to your phone plugging in everything you eat or having to write down everything you eat. Like I said, that can be super, super helpful to do for like 3 days. So if that's something you think is useful to you, you've done it in the past, you know it works, or you're like, I have no idea what you mean, you should probably write it down for about 3 days, everything you eat. Good, bad, and ugly. Every LBT, licks, bites, and tastes, all of it. Okay, but if you've done that before and you kind of know, and you just know you need to get it together, then once you know your choices, then you can just start planning your meals out by choices. So below that is how to figure out how many calories you get from protein. So I'm just going to give you a really simple example. If I know I get 5 grams under the protein section, if I know I get 5 grams of protein, and there are 5 choices of protein, if I get 5 choices, those are the choices back there. Okay, I've got 5 choices of protein. All right, each choice is 20 grams. That means I'm going to get 100 grams of protein in a day. Okay, now with that 100, if I multiply that by how many calories are in a gram of protein, that's 4. That's going to get me 400 calories from protein in a day. And that is a really good way to start figuring out. So you can do that with each one of these and go, okay, here's a baseline of where I should be calorie-wise. Okay, it's not always going to be the same for you, but at least it's a great way to get started on how to eyeball it and not be a slave to MyFitnessPal, not be a slave to writing it down. All right, so the next part, we've already done step 3 where we created balanced meals, but I just wanted to draw attention to the second page where it says choices for lean proteins. One choice is about 3 ounces. And so it gives you all of those lists that I told you, or things we talked about here, in terms of what you could look for at the grocery store. So this is your shopping list. You could use this as your shopping list. So now you have recipes for my cookbook, right? You've got this, and this is a great way to learn how to build meals from scratch, okay? So, you know, worst case scenario, you're like, oh, I see on this lean protein choices, I love cottage cheese. I love bison, sounds amazing. I want to try that. Bison and peas, I love it together. It tastes really good. You know, you pick some lean protein choices, and then you'll see below the non-lean protein choices. So you'll see ground beef, roast beef, 93% lean ground turkey. Those all have fats, enough fats in them that if you're having one of those proteins, you don't necessarily add fat from the fat category, which is the next column, okay? If I'm choosing a lean protein, I have more room for fats. That's why I tend to stick to really lean ground chicken and turkey and whatnot, because I like to add fats and sauces to my food. So that's my personal opinion. But if I am having something like I said, ground beef, bison, you really don't need a lot more, because that kind of meat is really very satisfying. It really just fills you up. So then we go on to our fat choices. There, I don't have in there avocado oil. I would write that down in that column. I think that's a really good one. And really any nuts or seeds that you like, those are always a good choice, as long as you're good with portion control. They taste great on salads too, so that's a good place to add them. And then we look at our carbs segment. So you'll see that one choice is about 4 to 5 ounces, and it's about the size of your fist or the palm of your hand. So another good way, like if you're doing a casserole and you're like, I'm not gonna plug every single item into MyFitnessPal, it's a casserole. You can kind of look at it and go, okay, I need about this much. If in a casserole, I'm looking at about this much, okay? So if I don't know what's in it, I go with about a fist size, fist and a half if I'm really feeling frisky or I've been really active, and then focus on adding a vegetable to that, a steamed vegetable. I really love roasted vegetables, roasted with a little avocado oil, or a nice big salad. And the keys with salad is making sure you change things up, okay? If you change your dressings, you change your, whatever little veggies you put in there. Try, like I said, a different kind of a seed, maybe sprinkle a few cranberries on there. Careful, they're high in sugar, but that little something can really brighten up your salad and make it delicious. Okay, so looking down through the grains, as I recommended, there's a note there, pasta, Banza chickpea pasta recommended. Love that Banza brand. You can get it at Target. Like I said, Walmart's got some great options. At least our Walmart does here in, what's the Grimes, Iowa Walmart. It's really good. And then you've got your starch choices there, and you can see your non-starchies. So if you're curious about the vegetables that are freebies, so you might make a note there, it says non-starchy, write freebie there, okay? All right, so you guys, we've gone over determining activity level. We've done estimate nutrition needs, create balanced meals. So we looked at how to plate those kinds of things. And then portions, how to eyeball things. So palm of my hand or fist for starches or carbs. For proteins, about the size of the palm of your hand, about 3 ounces is 20 grams of carbs. And then as far as fats go, about the size of your thumb, or you might just have to get out something to measure that. The other thing that I want to make sure you're doing is drinking lots and lots of water. okay? And when people say, yeah, but can I have Mio? Can I have whatever? Here's what I say. Best options: coffee, tea, water. Stay away from caffeine after around noon so that you're sleeping well. But, you know, I'll meet you where you're at. I'm not going to chastise you if you drink a Mio, you know, or you add something flavored to your water. Lemon is a good option, and I know if you're craving sweet and you think that doesn't sound good, it's probably because you need to X-nay on the sugar, okay? What happens is when we use artificial sweeteners, our bodies get confused as to what that is. It's foreign, it's not natural. So it's a better idea to really get yourself weaned off of sweets like that. Because really all you're doing is reintroducing sweet and making your body crave sweet. That's my opinion on it. There's not a ton of science one way or the other that's very, very conclusive, but it's just a personal experience myself. Trying to substitute those sweets in just makes me keep craving sweets. I keep looking for them. Just my own personal opinion. So, like I said, be kind to yourself. Start with one or two things. Don't overwhelm yourself. And I do have one more thing I wanted to point out to you guys in case you're a baker, okay? So here are a couple of my quick substitutes for baking. And even in my cookbook, sometimes I substitute certain things. So those of you who don't know, I went through a little autoimmune issue from being on some really heavy antibiotics. And so I had problems with my stomach and ended up with some food sensitivities to things like grains in general, like pretty much all of them: wheat, rice, oats, everything. So when I did that elimination diet, these are some of the things I used. So if you want to try some different things, these are my options. So I really like Lakanto. It's a monk fruit sweetener, and it is very low in carbohydrates. Let's see, we're looking at 4 carbs total, and it measures the same as sugar. So this one's really good. I get this one at Costco. Whole Foods carries it, and you can order it online. So that's one of my sweeteners. I also use honey quite a bit. And then here are a few ideas for flour substitutes. So tiger nut flour, which if you've never heard of tiger nut, this is Anthony's organic brand. Tiger nut flour is, it's actually a tuber, and it's grown in Africa. So think kind of like a potato or a sweet potato. So it's higher in carbs, but it bakes really well. It makes things taste pretty good. I made the banana chocolate chip muffins with tiger nut flour and served them, and people went back for seconds. They weren't just being polite, they ate them. So that's an option for you. Almond flour also works really well. So if you're really watching carbs, this one's really low. But I hear a lot of people that are doing sensitivity tests finding that almonds aren't the best for them. So, you know, if you're noticing stomach distress, or if you're noticing something strange with your skin or anything like that, you know, you might do that sensitivity test. I thought it was useful. So this one, I got this out for a reason. I just want you to see what it is. You have to be careful with this. This is coconut flour. So I don't do a ton with coconut flour because coconut is finicky if you're baking with it. It absorbs a ton of water, so you will end up with a brick. If you try to substitute it for one for like whatever you're doing with like a flour, if you like take a recipe made with regular old flour and you try to make it with coconut flour, you'll get a rock. So I would just say when you use coconut flour, definitely follow a recipe to the T. Make sure you get plenty of water, or make sure you use the amount of liquid it says to use. Normally, most recipes I see use coconut flour with almond flour, and they use the two together. So, and there's a reason for that, and there's only a little bit of coconut flour in it. So that's important. And then my last big tip for bakers, all my baker friends out there, if you want to try, so like my tiger nut flour is gluten-free and it's grain-free, okay? So if I wanted to make, which I made those chocolate chip banana nut muffins, I made them gluten-free, grain-free, and egg-free. What you can do is you can substitute flaxseed, ground flaxseed meal, 1 tablespoon, mixed with 3 tablespoons of water. That's how you substitute an egg. So, little tip there. And it totally worked. I was pretty excited about that. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening. Gosh, I like to hear myself talk, don't I? We got 45 minutes worth of video here. So I hope that this has been useful to you. I thank you for tuning in. And please comment in the comment section if you feel like I didn't cover something as much as you might like, or you would like to know more about one particular thing. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be prescribing calories to anybody on this Facebook group. Nobody really should be doing that in general, unless they're a registered dietitian, and it shouldn't be in a group situation. That should be a one-on-one situation. So if you really feel like you need to know that, a registered dietitian is your best bet. Or you can go, like I said, MyFitnessPal will give you a range, but sometimes I feel like they cut your calories a little too low. So if you're still feeling hungry after, sticking to whatever calorie range you get, it might be because you need more food. So go ahead and take a look at the activity levels that we have given you, and start there. The other benefit of that is, if you have a low activity day, you can just kind of downgrade it, and you can take a look at the sheet and go, yeah, maybe I don't need as many carbs choices today because I wasn't as active. All right, you guys, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Be sure and chime in with some comments. I am going to be doing a drawing for a free cookbook within the next week, and that is all based on comments on this video. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks.